Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 6 a.m. show here. I'm Eric Connors.
And I'm Neda Irampur. So glad to have you with us here this morning. And we are talking about the fate of Title 42. It is currently in limbo as the Supreme Court delays lifting the pandemic-era restriction on border crossings. Title 42 has allowed the government to keep migrants out of the United States, citing a risk to public health.
Right now, San Diego is still preparing for an influx of migrants. And CBS 8's Dana Marie McNichol is live at the Ped West crossing now to break this down for us this morning. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Eric. And like you said, yes, San Diego is preparing as we look to other cities like El Paso was already declared a state of emergency. They say they have a growing number of migrants huddled together in the cold, packing their shelters right now. Now, we heard from the White House press secretary about how they're looking for lawmakers to make a little bit more of a change, and they need their help. Take a listen.
We need Congress to give us the funds we've requested to do this in a safe, orderly, and humane way.
Now, they say $3.5 billion is needed to streamline the asylum process, hire more Border Patrol agents, and improve surveillance along the border. The help, they say, is stuck in Washington in a gridlock as the nation waits. Now, the policy put in place under former President Donald Trump let the U.S. expel hundreds of thousands of migrants on public health concerns during the pandemic. But Monday afternoon, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked Title 42 from ending amid challenges from local lawmakers along the border who they say they're worried they're even more overwhelmed. Now, parts of the Biden administration's plan to handling this influx includes busing people to cities like Denver and New York City. In the meantime, San Diego Congressman Darrell Issa is urging the White House to extend Title 42. In a statement, Issa says in part, quote, "This crisis will go into overdrive. Tens of thousands of migrants have surged our borders." In anticipation of the end of Title 42 as an easier path than ever to circumvent our immigration laws. Now, looking ahead, as of this morning, Title 42 will stay in effect until the Supreme Court says otherwise. The White House has until 2 p.m. today to respond. So, of course, we've been following this very closely and will continue to do so on further editions of CBS 8 News. I'm Dana Marie McNichol, coming to you live from San Ysidro.
Dana Marie, thank you. This morning, one controversial California gun law's fate is in limbo after a judge struck down a law that allows citizens to sue firearm distributors of banned weapons.
This law now mimics Texas's controversial abortion law. That's where private citizens are allowed to sue others for having an abortion. A U.S. District Court judge ruled against California's law last night. This is setting up a potential Supreme Court fight, testing both California's and Texas's privately enforced laws.
In a statement, Governor Gavin Newsom says he actually wanted this law struck down so that California could eventually challenge Texas's controversial abortion law. In part, the governor says, quote, "It is hypocritical to let Texas use procedural rules to shield its laws from review and then say that California cannot enact the very same rules in its laws."
And now this morning, San Diego police investigating a Chula Vista police shooting that left a man dead in the Walmart parking lot. This happened Sunday night on Broadway, right near Oxford Street. Investigators say multiple people called 911 to report a man hitting a woman there. When officers arrived, they say the man moved towards them with a knife. Officers say that he ignored commands to drop the knife and stop moving. He didn't stop. So police say another officer opened fire and hit the man several times. He died at the scene. His name and the officer who shot him were not released.
A new proposal would decriminalize natural psychedelics for Californians over the age of 21. State Senator Scott Wiener is advocating for this bill. He introduced it yesterday. Research at some medical universities have found evidence that psychedelics can help treat mental health conditions such as depression. The bill would allow only plant-based hallucinogens such as psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. This bill would not legalize the sale of psychedelics. Rather, it would decriminalize the possession of small amounts.
Criminalizing drug use and possession accomplishes absolutely nothing other than to fill up our prisons.
Wiener also proposed a bill last year that included synthetic psychedelics like LSD, but that bill failed in an assembly committee. This morning, the San Diego Blood Bank, they need your help. They are hitting a dangerously low level of blood supplies. CBS 8's Chris Groh live outside the San Diego Blood Bank now, sharing ways we can all help out with this. Chris?
Yeah, and we know that the need is really great, especially around this time of year, but we're also dealing with supply issues. That's why those who are, for instance, O negative, universal donor, are getting a lot of calls.
I'm a O negative, so I'm a universal donor. So they call me all the time. So like literally the day that I'm available to donate, they start calling me. So I realized it was pretty important.
Yeah, and so we know that a lot of those calls go out during the year, especially if you've donated in the past. And of course, they know what your blood type is. But those calls are going out more frequently this time of year because normally the need is great. But also at the same time, there is an issue with the supply chain in terms of trying to get those double red blood donations. Those supplies have run out. That means that the blood bank needs double the amount of single unit donations to make up for it. They're needing about 1,000 donors to step up in the next 2 weeks. So if you're someone who's eligible, they want you to go in, make an appointment to try to get those supplies back up because a single donation can save up to 3 lives.
I think if they could just connect to the bigger picture and imagine the people that they're helping, they could, get over the little prick that they have to fill.
And if you're at home right now wondering if you can help, if you can donate, you probably can. If you're 17 or older and weigh more than 114 pounds, you are technically eligible. Of course, there are other criteria. Just go to CBS8.com and click on that story link to find out how to help. Eric Canetta?
All right, Chris, thank you very much for that. And now we do have some breaking news we want to get to. We are learning of a 6.4 magnitude earthquake rattling Northern California, Humboldt County. It's near Ferndale. That's north of San Francisco, just south of Eureka.
Yeah, sizable quake here. We are told there has been more than a dozen aftershocks. And take a look at some damage. These pictures were shared by journalist Austin Castro with North Coast News. You can see the large crack right there on the street. According to Castro, this is the main road into Ferndale. He says it's closed off as Caltrans inspects for any additional damage out there. Still not clear if any injuries have been reported. We will continue to update you as soon as we learn more. You see that he wrote 6.2 magnitude.
Right.
We're hearing reports of 6.4. This frequently happens on quakes. They've got to adjust the magnitude.
Yeah, the USGS, of course, still adjusting as they get that information, but we've seen quite a few aftershocks, and this is the location of it. Wanted to show you just how far north of San Francisco this is, closer even to the Oregon border. So 6.2, 6.4 quake, kind of depending on the USGS here for those final numbers, but that's the location of it. Obviously way far north, but they may have felt it in those higher populated areas like the Bay Area, Sacramento as well. So pretty large quake here right along that ring of fire that we know all too well in California. Looking here at our local forecast now, let's talk about this. We are getting some high clouds coming in all the way from Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. In fact, there's this storm system that's right here, a pretty weak low, bringing in some lighter showers, some snowfall to those higher elevations. We're not going to get any moisture squeezed out of that one. It's just going to bring us a few clouds. Changing up our views compared to what we had yesterday. 48 degrees in Fallbrook, 35 right now in Escondido. So still right here, you are very cold. 29 in Ramona, 37 in El Cajon. Another day with likely patchy frost forming. So for some inland valley locations along the coast, you're still in the 40s, which we are warmer compared to yesterday. 1 to even 5 degrees warmer like in Fallbrook, likely because those clouds have already worked their way in. But our dew points are dry, so you're seeing numbers down into the negatives. 11-degree dew point for Julian. This just shows we don't have that much moisture, which is why it gets so cold in places like Ramona. Surf forecast looking at 1 to 3 foot waves. I would say maybe go later on today, especially during low tide. Should be pretty nice to just go for a walk, go for a swim, paddle boarding, because we don't have big waves. So the surfers may be sitting out there for a while waiting for those rollers to come through. High tide is this morning at 6:07, low tide at 1:21. Now this afternoon, as you see your afternoon highs pretty mild compared to yesterday, very similar. 66 downtown, same with National City, La Mesa. You're a little warmer in Santee and El Cajon in the upper 60s here. So we're looking at mid to upper 60s again for most inland valleys and the coast. 50s for the mountains, deserts. You're the same kind of weather as the coast is going to feel today. All thanks to high pressure. We have back-to-back ridging happening. So I'll let you know what that means for our holiday weekend that's coming and how warm we're about to get. And then we'll compare it to the rest of the country. Yeah, you'll see why a lot of people will be wanting to come to San Diego. Eric?